They're not always loud or obvious. Sometimes control feels like care. Sometimes manipulation hides behind a smile. And by the time you notice, the strings are already wrapped around you. These are the invisible strings, subtle, psychological manipulations that pull at your mind, shape your choices, and quietly convince you that every move you make was your idea all along. The string of guilt. Guilt is one of the most powerful levers in human behaviour because it hijacks your morality. A skilled manipulator doesn't need to shout, threaten, or demand. They simply make you feel wrong for saying no. It starts small. I just thought you cared more. I'm guessing I was wrong about you. Simple words, with a heavy meaning. They create an emotional debt, one that you never agreed to, but suddenly you feel responsible to repay it. You find yourself over-explaining, apologising for nothing, trying to prove you're good, that you're not selfish, not cold, not ungrateful. That's how the strings work. It wraps around your conscience. Every time you act out of guilt instead of genuine choice, that string tightens. And the cruelest part, the more empathetic you are, the easier it is to control you. Because guilt doesn't prey on weakness, it preys on your kindness. The string of uncertainty. Doubt is a doorway, and manipulators know how to push it open. They plant tiny seeds. That's not what happened. You're remembering it wrong. You're overreacting. You always do. One by one, those seeds grow until you start questioning yourself. Was I really too sensitive? Did I imagine that? Maybe I am the problem. That's gaslighting. Psychological warfare through confusion. It's designed to erode your confidence in your own perception. And once your reality starts to wobble, they step in as the only steady voice left. They become your translator for the world. You stop trusting your instincts, you start trusting them. They correct your words, your feelings, your memories, until you second guess everything that doesn't align with their story. At that point, control isn't forced, it's voluntary, because you've been conditioned to believe their version of the truth is safer than your own. And once that happens, you're no longer being manipulated, you're being rewritten. The string of reward. Not all control feels cruel. Some of it feels like love. This one doesn't use fear, it uses pleasure. Small bursts of approval, affection, or validation, given just often enough to keep you craving the next one. It's called intermittent reinforcement, and it's the same pattern that makes gambling addictive. Your brain releases dopamine every time they give you praise, but when the praise is unpredictable, your brain starts chasing it. That's the hook. You work harder to please them, not out of love, but out of withdrawal. They don't need to control you directly, they just withhold the reward until you behave. A single "I'm proud of you" after days of silence can erase every doubt you had about them, and that tiny emotional high keeps you on the leash. What makes this string terrifying is that it conditions your self-worth to depend on their approval. You stop asking, "Is this right?" and start asking, "Will this make them happy?" It's not love, that's behavioural training dressed as affection. If you know anyone like this, let us know in the comments. Or if you feel someone else needs to know these signs, share it with them. It might open their eyes. The string of isolation. Isolation isn't always a locked room. Sometimes it's a gradual rearranging of your world. They start with suggestions that sound protective. Your friends don't really get you. Your family doesn't like how close we are. They're just jealous, you don't need that negativity. At first, it feels comforting. Someone who understands you better than anyone else. But over time, the circle tightens. Your calls slow down, your social life fades. The people who could have warned you drift away. That's when the silence becomes a tool. because once they're the only voice left in the room, they can decide what you hear and what you believe. Isolation breaks perspective. Without outside feedback, your sense of normal starts to work. You rationalise their behaviour. You excuse things that once you would have run from. And at that point, isolation doesn't just cut you off from others, it cuts you off from yourself. By the time you realise what's happening, your world is so small that leaving feels impossible. And the scariest part, they'll tell you it's because they love you. The string of fear. Fear doesn't always roar, sometimes it whispers. It tells you to stay quiet, to stay small, to not make them angry. This string is the final stage of control, when you've been conditioned to obey, not because you're threatened, but because you're afraid of the consequence of disobedience. The fear might not be real, it's the idea of it that traps you. Fear of rejection, fear of losing love, fear of being alone. And once that fear lives in your mind, they no longer have to control you. You'll do it yourself. That's the genius of psychological warfare. It makes you your own warden. You avoid confrontation. You change your tone, your opinions, your truth, just to stay safe in a cage they convinced you was protection. And in that quiet compliance, they win. Because fear doesn't need force, it just needs belief. If you feel you might be in this situation, please seek help. And if you think someone else might be in this situation, show them this video. It might plant a seed for them, but if it's really bad, you need to get them help too. Until next time, mind speak. See the unseen.